Previously on Higurashi When They Cry console arcs. Even with Hanyu's power, I couldn't go back far enough to try again. How lonely. Even now, it's just so lonesome. But even so, if all I could do was apologize to her, that'd be enough. I just wanted to let her know, by any means. I'm sorry for enjoying rainy days. I'm sorry for not liking the lunches you prepared. I'm sorry for not reciprocating your love. And...
お母さんのことくてごめんなさい。
With that thought in mind, I slid the door open.
Takano, Mio.
This time, I could remember it clearly. The true culprit, who tore my belly open and killed me. The one who used the curse of Orishiro-sama to trample on our friends' thoughts. The one whose wretched plan has kept me locked in this prison. Our true enemy. Well, this is definitely one big difference from Chapter 8, you being able to recall this detail on your own, without Hanyu. At one point, I relied on her, just a little bit. I used to think she was a kind and gentle person, who cared about Sadako and me. But... I've already forgotten that. As long as that woman exists, my friends and I can never be happy. This time, I'm sure I'll stop her from making me repeat this crazy world.
Hanyu, 聞こえないのですか? Hanyu, 返事をして!
I desperately called out to the void around me. She was always by my side. No matter where I went, what I did, or what I was thinking, I always understood that. And yet, this time, why?
Hanyu!
I looked up at the sky in bewilderment. The moon was shining down on me through the dark sky. The night sweats combined with the chilling evening breeze made it feel all like the blood in my body had frozen over, and I began trembling. I had finally reached a world where hope was in sight. My enemy was in sight, and my goal, even though I still didn't know how things would end. And I was able to believe in my incredible friends. I'm not alone. Reina is here, plus Mion, Shion, Sadako, and Keiichi. I wanted to believe that by combining our strength, I could find the hope for one last chance. And yet, despite that,
Hanyu!
Feeling shock, and finally recognizing the implications of that fact, I fell down to my knees on the spot. My greatest ally, who I've relied on all this time to maintain my peace of mind, does not exist in this world.
Master! Curry rice!
And now she's entered maid mode!
大盛りで4枚!
The whole class is dumbfounded by that unusual answer, looking totally flat-footed. However, sensing some kind of kinship in a fellow curry lover, Chi Sensei's mood slowly started to improve, and a tense atmosphere began to dissipate.
よろしい。私の気のせいでしたね。では皆さん、楽しい昼食を。
Having said that, Chi Sensei smiled and then made her way out of the classroom. The next moment, Shion was released from her hellish shackles and helplessly slumped to the floor.
大丈夫かな、しーちゃん。
I can't believe that actually worked! If things remain as they are, that witch will get her hands on me, and things will end in the worst possible way. Still, I realize that. But I squeezed at the comforter. The white, freshly laundered sheet cover quickly crumpled and soaked into sweat from my palms. But still, I had no answer for that. And the one person who would always reach out to me when I was feeling this troubled wasn't here. When that happened, first and foremost, I felt abject dread and indescribable loneliness. It was so unnatural. But despite that, I'm still surrounded by my lively, noisy friends. Anytime I walk around Hinamizawa or Okinomiya, all the villagers will clap their hands together in praise and treat me kindly. It's true that I have no immediate family, but I never had any reason to feel alone. Nevertheless, even after living for hundreds or even thousands of years, this was the very first time I felt truly alone.
そんなに変ですかね。私とさとこが仲良くしてたら。
Yes, it is.
あれ？ひょっとしてリカちゃま、嫉妬してます？私に取られたと思って。さとこは僕の可愛い遊び相手なのです。シーにも渡さないのですよ。ミパー。さとこをめぐって三角関係成立ですか。なんか私たちのバッグに百合の花が見えますよ。
No, that wasn't what I was getting at. At any rate, I was glad the conversation had veered in another direction.
それに任されてますから私。
Sadako is not an it, Shion.
さとこのこと。サトシから。
Shion opened her eyes a little wider in surprise. I thought it was a mistake to mention his name, but Shion quickly shrugged her shoulders and flashed a playful smile.
まあ、確かに。サトシ君の一件があった直後はいろいろ複雑でしたよ。ひょっとしたらサトシ君がいなくなった原因の一つはサトコなんじゃないだろうかって。今なら笑っちゃうくらいの逆恨みをした時期も間違いなくありました。
I already know about all that. When I followed you, it warped into intense murderous rage against the Sonozaki family and against Sadako.
サトコと私、立場は同じなんです。だから私も約束を守ってあの子の面倒を見続けようってそう思えるようになりました。信じるのは難しいけど信じなきゃ始まらないって誰かが言っていた気がします。信頼に応えなきゃ奇跡を信じる資格なんてありませんからね。資格ですか。
That simple utterance had terribly heavy weight to it. Shion smiled and scratched her head as though she sensed something odd in my reaction.
なんて柄じゃないですね。お姉じゃあるまいし。まあ最近はサトコの反応とか仕草が小動物チックでいじめがいがあるというかなんか可愛くなってきちゃってるんですけどね。
てへ？Is Shion the sort of character to say that? Still.
きっと実現すると思うのです。僕はシーとサトコの願いが
本当になることを祈っていますのです。
それはお社様の巫女としてですか？
お社様は関係ないのです。でも、もし必要なら、僕からお社様にお願いしてあげるのですよ。
それはどうも。でも、神頼みじゃなく、自分でも頑張るつもりですから。じゃ。
After that last jab, Shion waved her hand and left the nurse's office. Such a frank attitude. But only these days did I finally understand. Shion was always quite frank of her true intentions. And so it continues. Greetings, my name is Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play the Higurashi When They Cry console arcs. So, in the last episode, we did the first part of Miotsukushi Omote, but now, before I can continue on with the rest of that arc, we gotta get through Miotsukushi Ura in its entirety before we get back to Omote, because that's apparently how this story was originally structured before they split them off into two different arcs for some freaking reason. So, without further ado, let's just hop right into it. Miotsukushi Ura. Waterway exhausting. Reverse side. This arc concludes the advanced story sequence. It should be read after completing Somotsushi, Kagabushi, Tokihogushi, and the connecting fragments. Tomoe gives it her all in an attempt to solve all the remaining mysteries. You got it, Burger Queen! You can do it! Another killer opening. I like it.
Oi, oi. ずいぶん張り込んだ席を用意してくれたもんだな。大丈夫か？割り箸じゃなく塗り箸を出される料亭なんて、俺は久しぶりに来たぞ。検事生殿が何をおっしゃいますやら。
Akasaka, my boy, my man, my chump, my super cop. How you doing?
ささ、まずは一本。反町さん。
As I said that, I grabbed the beer bottle the waitress had just brought us, and offered to pour a glass out for the man right in front of me, Chief Prosecutor Soramachi. He was an upperclassman of mine back when we were in college, and nowadays he was a prosecuting attorney working for the Tokyo District Prosecutor's Office. He's been involved in many large cases since he was appointed to the position, but opinions on him from members of the same sex are split down the middle, thanks to his womanizing demeanor and crude speech and behavior. Still, he's been treating me well ever since our college days, so nowadays he felt as close as family.
お、すまん。おっとと。よく冷えてやがるな。
As he said that, Soramachi-san took the bottle from my hands and graciously returned my gesture by filling my glass to the brim with the amber liquid. In a show of gratitude, we raised our glasses and lightly clacked them together in a toast.
いやいや、こういうところで飲むビールは格別にうまいな。それにこう、五臓六腑へ染み渡る感じってのも久々だと結構いいもんだ。
久々？酒豪で鳴らした先輩らしくないですね。最近はあまり飲まれないんですか？
まあな。帰りにちょっと立ち飲み屋で軽く引っ掛ける程度か。忙しいってのもあるが、知見の連中に付き合って深酒すると帰りが遅くなるだろ。それだったら早く帰って雄一の相手をしてやりたいからな。
おあ、なるほど。
I felt a sense of admiration for Soramachi-san and considered him a great man, as I refilled his now empty glass. His wife passed away shortly after their marriage. It seems she suffered complications while giving birth to their son. Oh, man, that sucks. Since then, Soramachi-san has been raising his son, Yuichi-kun, on his own, with some help from his parents. As chief of the Special Investigation Department of the District Prosecutor's Office, he's required to carry out exhausting work every single day. It's easy to imagine just how much hardship he must endure, but he never lets it show. Thanks to that, some peers and superiors see his evening socialization in a bad light, but he's taking care of his family and not wasting time with women. Despite how he may look, he's a very sincere person.
反町さんに比べると私なんてまだまだですね。前に娘が通う幼稚園で演劇発表会があったんですが、仕事で見に行ってやれず、あの子には随分むくれられてしまって。
Oh, how could you? How could you, Akasaka? Shame. Shame!
機嫌を直してもらうのに随分苦労しましたよ。
そいつは運が悪かったな。とはいえ、みゆきちゃんにとっては今が一番父親との接点を持ちたがる年頃だ。あんまり続くと思春期になった時に苦労するぞ。
ええ、心します。とはいえ、家庭と仕事を両立してこそ一人前なんて奥様方の声をよく耳にしますが、口で言うほど簡単なものではない。それをきちんとやっておられるあなたはすごいと私は本気で思います。
まあその点についてはお互い様だ。俺もよく手抜かりがあったり忘れたりして後でしまったと思ったことが何度あったかわからんよ。だからといって忙しさをその言い訳にはしたくない。それが死んだ女房との約束だからな。
反町さん。
It seems he has a reputation as a devoted husband at work, since his late wife was his childhood sweetheart. Oh, that's even worse. Damn, man. Now I want to give you a hug or pat you on the back or buy you a drink. Just do something. In fact, he didn't shed any tears in front of the public at the funeral. But I did accidentally catch him crying and trying to keep his voice down outside the funeral home. Even now, I couldn't forget how I stood there thinking about what to say, and he stared at me with bright red eyes and a bitter smile on his face that seemed to say, "Please keep quiet about this."
ということは、先輩の再婚話は当分なさそうですね。いやいや、もったいない。先輩と一緒にキャバクラとかへ飲みに行くと、そこに居合わせた綺麗なお姉ちゃんたちをみんなかっさらってしまうと、うちの上司がぼやいていたんですが、知っていますか？反町さんさえその気になれば、 立候補者が多数いらっしゃるようですよ。
どうだか。そういう連中は俺がこぶつきと分かりゃあっという間に逃げ出すさ。金と肩書きに寄ってくるやつはそういうもんだ。悪いがそんなうぞうむぞうの輩どもは全部まとめてノーサンキューだよ。
そう言うと思いましたよ。
Of course, I didn't think everyone was like that. I'm sure there are some women among them who genuinely like to get closer to Soramachi-san. But I think his insistence on putting up a wall like that is a testament to his sincere feelings for his late wife.
まあ、あの奥さん以上の女性なんてそう簡単に見つかるわけがありませんからね。優しくて綺麗で、大学のゼミで初めて先輩から紹介された時は、マドンナってのはきっとこういう人を言うんだろうなって、私たち全員ため息をついたくらいですから。絶対先輩に騙されているか弱みを握られているかのどっちかだって言ってるやつもいましたよ。
The envy was strong in those ones.
おいおい、いくらなんでも美化しすぎだっての。そりゃまあ見かけはまあ悪くはなかったが、あれも結構気が強くて、お前たちの見ていないところだと俺の尻ビシバシ叩いてたんだぜ。
Interesting. Care to share such a tale with us?
キャバレーのマッチが見つかった日には本気で殺されるかと思った。
そうなんですか。すごく意外な感じです。
I only spoke a little with Soramachi-san's wife before she died, but her words perfectly fit the idea of a good wife. I never once saw a look of anger on her face. Being on the flip side of their close relationship, I was a little jealous of their deep affection. Well, compared with such a wonderful woman, it's natural for even a whole group of moderately beautiful women to be upstaged.
いやいや、別にミサオを立ててるってわけじゃないんだぞ。雄一のことを考えれば、やっぱり母親ってのがいるといないとじゃ今後の上層教育に影響があるだろうしな。機会があればまあ検討しないでもないつもりだ。
そうなんですか。ちなみにやっぱり反町さんのタイプはうるさ型よりもあの方のように清楚な女性が好みですか。
だから清楚はやめろっての。とりあえず強いてあげるなら、自分の意見をしっかり持っている目の綺麗な女性だな。それでいて自己主張が激しすぎず、相手を立てるつつましさがあると理想的だ。そんな奴と出会う機会があったらすぐにでも男やもめの生活を返上してやるさ。
条件厳しいですね。
Just then, the door to the room slid open, and a waitress came in to place several plates on her table. Then, she made a polite gesture towards Soramachi-san and myself, before explaining each dish to us, then quietly walking out.
しかし、どうして料亭ってのは事前に料理の中身を話したがるんだろうかな。食う前にそれが何か分かったら面白くないだろうに。
確かに。とはいえ魚の名前がヤマメだのアユだのと説明されていないとなんとなく味気ない感じもするじゃないですか。私たちは食通じゃありませんから魚の味の違いなんて分かりませんし。
そういう考え方もあるか。
Soramachi-san skillfully separated the bones from the body of his fish as he said that. When I saw that, I also grabbed my chopsticks from the table.
ああ、そういや、魚といえば、雄一がまたお前さんに釣りを教えてもらいたいって言ってたぞ。
雄一くんが？
よっぽど魚釣りが気に入ったらしいな。この前も友達を何人か引き連れて近くの川に行ってきたそうだ。もっとも釣ってきたのは泥船だからとても食えやしなかったが。
そりゃよかった。でも水場は危険ですからよく注意しておいた方がいいと思いますよ。 まだ小学生なんだから、川面に落ちると大変ですからね。
そうだな。今度注意しておこう。
Them rivers are no joke, man.
あとみゆきちゃんとまた会いたいってさ。
ほう。みゆきと。
I was in the middle of deboning my fish, but my chopsticks came to an abrupt halt. When we went fishing at the marsh last time, the two of them certainly were chatting like close friends. Miyuki isn't particularly shy around strangers, so I didn't think it all that unusual. However...
おいこら、何固まってんだ。まさかお前今から花嫁の親父を気取るわけじゃないだろうな。
まさかそんなことは。
Guilty as charged.
そうですよね。まだ小学生と幼稚園児ですから。そういう話はまだまだ先の楽しみってことで。
まあ俺の場合、女房と初めて知り合ったのは幼稚園の遠足の時だったが。
Careful, you're going to instill a sense of paranoia in his poor little mind. See? It's already been seeded! The beer I had guzzled down trying to calm myself suddenly got caught in my throat. Suramachi-san let out a weird laugh as he watched me panic. But then he suddenly grabbed an unopened beer bottle and popped the cork.
で、
はい。
そろそろ聞かせてくれ。用があってこんな宴席を設けたんだろ。さっき言ったように俺はあんまり遅くまで飲みの席にかまけていられない。さっさと要件を話せ。
ああ。
Upon hearing that, I adjusted my legs and corrected my posture, then took a deep breath to calm myself. I knew that it was cowardly of me to rely on the power of alcohol, but without it, I wouldn't have the courage to speak. Liquid courage!
公安は例の捜査から手を引くことになりました。すみません。
そうか。
Suramachi-san poured some more beer into both his glass and mine, looking calmer than expected. He drank it down in one gulp, then shrugged his shoulders and sighed.
なんとなくそうなるかもって予感は少し前からあったからな。お前のせいじゃない。だからそこで謝るな。
反町さん。
だいたい水臭いとは思わんか。慣れ合いってのはあんまり好きじゃないが、俺とお前の仲じゃないか。この程度のことでご機嫌を取らなきゃなんていちいち気を回してたら財布にいくら金が詰まってても足りないぜ。お前のそういうところ俺ははい。
So, what investigation exactly are you two gentlemen referring to, if you don't mind my asking? It would be rude to say something conciliatory after being told not to apologize, so I simply bowed my head. Still, I couldn't help but feel guilt and regret. We were cooperating on an investigation into a certain politician's misconduct. Let me guess. Chiba? We learned that confidential domestic information was being leaked to a certain foreign company, Lowell Inc., and that bribes were being paid in return for the intel. And furthermore, recent investigations brought to light the existence of a certain individual who had been continuing to control government ministers with his strong voice since the end of the war, but died a few months ago. The size of the organization he set up was comparable to what was seen in the Lowell scandal, which was a massive ordeal. Thus, it was necessary for Suramachi-san and the Special Investigation Department at the Tokyo District Prosecutor's Office to thoroughly investigate the details of these activities. And for them, our intelligence gathering and investigative activities at the Public Security Bureau were an indispensable contribution. Also, it's very difficult for the police to gain grounds for an arrest in this flood tide of a situation, where the enemy may be a politician or a businessman with political influence, so it's best to get in touch with the Special Investigation Department. That's why two departments that normally don't cooperate very much were working together on this particular investigation. You gotta be delicate!
正直言って残念です。せっかく相手側の資料を内部告発の形で入手することができたのに。
そういうもんさ。というより、お前さんの掴んだものはそれだけ連中にとっては致命的なものだったってことの証明さ。でなきゃこんな強引な干渉をやってくるわけがない。
反町さん。
ちなみにお前さんが掴んだっていうその資料見せてもらうというわけにはいかないよな。
すみません。
わかってるって。公安は国益を守ること、つまり国家の安定を図るのがその存在意義だからな。なあ、皮肉に受け取るなよ。それが結局俺たち知見と公安が今まで相入れなかった理由ってことさ。
Suramachi-san played with the empty glass in his hand as he said that, peering at something in the reflection. Noticing the gesture, I extended the beer bottle out to him, but he raised his hand to decline and then gradually began to speak up.
あの清少、小泉ってやつはとんでもない野郎だった。
小泉、
国の予算とか政党への政治献金とかを指先三寸で思うがままに振り分け、勝手に研究会やら勉強会やらを開いては子飼いの連中にばらまいて、この国が法治国家、そして議会制民主主義ってことを知った上で、それをあえて無視して嘲笑うような真似を堂々としていやがった。俺はそれが一番許せね
え。ええ、全くです。
もっとも奴はこの前死んだ。天寿を全うして盛大にいい思い出とともに名誉も抱えてな。神も仏もねえ結末で頭にくるが、それはともかくとしても組織はまだ残ったままだ。そして小泉以上に小賢しくて意地汚い連中がそれを動かして懐を肥やし続けている。それをぶっ潰すのが俺たち知見特捜部の役目さ。正義云々を語る以前に法治国家の番人としてな。だが赤坂、お前たちは違う。情に流されて自分の立場と職務を見失うってのは俺たちも求めていない。まあお前さんはうまくいくように見守っていてくれや。
はい、後輩として応援しています。
I held my hand out as I gave my answer. Suramachi-san's eyes opened wide for a moment, but before long he looked a little embarrassed and firmly gripped it. It may be ridiculously naive, but at the moment, that was really all I could do.
旅行ですか？
Hello, Yukie.
ああ、しばらく休みどころか家にも戻らない日が続いたからね。
Oh, wait a minute, you're alive in this timeline.
ちょっと長めに休みをもらってどこか温泉にでも行こうと思うんだが。
It was a few days after my meeting with Suramachi-san. During my time off, I decided to go to a department store with my wife and daughter. They gave me dubious looks when I first suggested it, probably because I haven't been able to make time for the family for a while. But the weather was good and we were able to have a good time. Miyuki in particular seemed especially happy to be able to play on the rooftop plaza. After catching a slightly late lunch at a nearby restaurant, she was all smiles and bursting with energy. Of course, when she started chatting with the complete strangers at the table next to us. Yukie had to step in and tell her to be careful around strangers. Good parenting. Good parenting. Good on you, Yukie.
どうだろうか、ゆきえ。君も温泉は嫌いじゃなかっただろう。
まあ。でも、大丈夫なのですか？
It's just hot water and steam. What's there to oppose?
そんなに長い休みをもらうなんて、今までほとんどなかったのに。
ああ、心配ないよ。室長からも少し骨休めしてこいってお達しがあったからね。みゆきもどうだ？温泉行ってみたいだろ？
温泉？それってお風呂屋さん？
違う違う。温泉ってのはね、山の中にある大きなお風呂場なんだ。
So it is kind of like a bathhouse then. Don't send her mixed messages, man.
そこでホテルに泊まって美味しい料理を食べよう。みゆきの好きな釣りもできるはずだよ。
じゃあお出かけなの？わーい！温泉！やったー！
Yuki-chan slammed the glass of juice she had been drinking down in the momentum of her excitement. A fork slipped off the table thanks to her energetic rampage, and it let out a harsh, high-pitched sound that echoed throughout the room as it hit the ground. Control your child!
こらみゆき、静かにしなさい。ここはお家じゃないの。騒ぐと周りに迷惑でしょ。
Atta woman.
ほら、フォークが落ちちゃったじゃないの。交換してもらわなきゃ。すみません。
ごめんなさい。
Miyuki's eyes began to tear up after that scolding from Yukie. But I was the one that got her so excited in the first place with my talk about hot springs. With that in mind, I turned to Yukie and tried to interrupt, saying, "Come on."
ゆきえ、そんなに厳しく叱らなくても。騒ぎたい年頃なんだから、多めに見てやればいいじゃないか。
Don't undermine, and I bet her response is going to be, "Don't undermine me in front of our daughters, son."
ダメです。こういうしつけは子供の時にしっかりやっておかないと。みゆき、この子、幼稚園でも落ち着きがないって先生に注意されているのだから。
ああ、しかしな。
それに、よその子たちはもっと大変なんですよ。勉強とかお稽古事とか。みゆきなんてまだマシな方です。あなたはそんなことご存知じゃないから甘いことをおっしゃるのでしょうけど。
すまん。
ごめんなさい。私、つい言い過ぎてしまって。あなたのお仕事のことは十分にわかっているつもりなのに。
Yukie bowed her head to me over and over, with an embarrassed look on her face. She was a naturally kind woman who never complained about my work. Honestly, she was too good for me. Maybe I slipped into a nasty tone. I'm tired and can't really tell. Thinking that, I couldn't help but feel sorry for being an inconvenience.
いや、みゆきのしつけのことを考えれば、君の言う通りだ。しばらくの間、家庭のことをすっかり任せっきりにして、いろいろと苦労をかけてしまった。本当に、すまないと思っているんだ。
あなた。
だから、今度の旅行では、ゆっくり骨休めしてくれないか。みゆきのことは、私がしっかり面倒見るから。
そんな、あなただっていろいろとお疲れなのに。あなたの方こそ、ぜひ体を休めてくださいな。
いや、君の方が。
いいえ、あなたが。
No you. No you. No you. No you. Miyuki had been staring at us as we went back and forth, but just then she lit up with a bright smile.
パパとママってラブラブ。
Well, you two are arguing like an old married couple. Kinda. Lovey-dovey. We exchanged glances at one another upon hearing something we couldn't have imagined. In the next moment, the embarrassment set in, and we both shrunk down and turned bright red.
Ah! Papa とママ、顔真っ赤だ！熱いよ！この子の！ヒューヒュー！
No, she's hidden below the belt here.
みゆき。
こーら。そんな言葉、どこで覚えてきたの？
Schoolmates, if I had to guess.
幼稚園！森田先生が教えてくれたの。
Oh my god! The teacher told you? Oh no. Oh no. Kindergarten education is incredible these days. Yeah, that's certainly one word for it, sure. We better have a thorough discussion for teacher next time. I agree. At any rate, after coughing several times to calm down and hide my embarrassment, I turned back toward Yukie.
とにかく、みゆきの面倒は交代で見て。お互い温泉でゆっくり羽を伸ばそう。それでどうかな。
ええ。あなたさえそれでよろしければ。
よし。そうと決まれば、今週の日曜、早速下見に行ってくるよ。行き先は、そうだな。和倉温泉なんてどうだ？
You know, it's a real shame that their hot spring vacation is very likely going to get cut tragically short. And I feel so bad just thinking about it. Akasaka deserves a break, goddammit. He works so hard being an upstanding enforcer of justice. And a car also goes beep beep. Miyuki was staring at the flowing scenery out the window and waving her arms and legs while sitting in the passenger seat. At least for the moment, the seatbelt she was wearing kept her from running around inside the car or getting into other misbehavior. But I wasn't confident how much longer that would last. You could always just use chains.
ねえパパ、窓開けてもいい？
どうした？車に酔って気分が悪くなったのか？
平気だよ。ちょっと外の風を感じたいなーって。
風？
そう、みゆきね、この前森田先生にバイク乗せてもらったんだ。
What the hell? Isn't that illegal to isn't that illegal? Last I checked, isn't that illegal in Japanese Japanese law to allow a minor to ride around on a motorcycle, whether it be as the driver or as a passenger?
バイクってすごいよね。速いし、かっこいいし。
そうだな。
みゆき、大きくなったらバイク買うんだ。高速でかっ飛ばす美少女ライダー、赤坂みゆき。
Okay, now you're sounding like as though you're saying some stuff that was coached to you, Miyuki. Akasaka, Yukie, I strongly recommend you have a few strong words with her teacher.
なんちゃって。
もうちょっと我慢しなさい。
I'm having serious concerns about her future, as you should. And who does this Morita-sensei think he is, breathing these ridiculous ideas into a child? Well, you're super cop, Akasaka. I say you should go and inflict some super justice on his sorry ass. When you're done with your vacation, of course. Be that as it may. Oh, shit. I could picture Miyuki all grown up, her long hair waving about as she skillfully maneuvered a large motorcycle, with a patrol car chasing after her from behind. Joke's on you. She's a short hair as an adult. It was only my imagination, but it was enough to send a tremble down my back.
シートを倒して寝ていてもいいんだぞ、みゆき。着いたらちゃんと起こしてあげるから。
いいもん。だってパパとドライブ久しぶりだもん。
そうか。
On the other hand, that adorably pitiful reaction filled my heart and had the corners of my eyes heating up. So, I turned facing directly forward and tightly gripped the wheel to avoid causing an accident.
代理店でパンフレットをもらうとか、旅行雑誌を買えばいいじゃないですか。わざわざ下見になんて行かなくても。
Yuki had a wry smile on her face as she said that, sending me out. Even though I wanted to make it a family trip, I ended up heading to our destination a day early. I might actually be the one most excited about it. It was an unexpected but happy development that Miyuki decided to come with me. Just then, as I was looking down the highway, I noticed a familiar name written on a sign there. Hinamizawa. Come to think of it, we're pretty close to that town. The place I visited 5 years ago. And the place where I met.
なあ、みゆき。ちょっと寄り道をしてもいいかな。
Yeah, I think I see what's going on here. They're going to make him take what is supposed to be a quick detour to see around Hinamizawa, end up being the very thing that causes him to be right where he needs to be in order to be present for the new final battle that we are currently prepping ourselves up for. I want so badly to just tell him to just put Hinamizawa aside and just go enjoy his vacation, but alas, I know if we do that, everybody's gonna end up having a bad time, because Akasaka is, well, he's super cop, like I keep saying. If Super Cop's not around here to throw around some good old-fashioned fist-to-the-face justice on some big old baddies, well, everyone's gonna be crying.
寄り道？どこに？
沖宮って町なんだ。
It's right next to Hinamizawa. It's close enough.
パパの知り合いにちょっとだけ挨拶しておきたいと思ってね。
It's close enough. After getting off the highway, I was navigating the roads entirely by old memories. But it wasn't too difficult, so I found my way to the Okinomiya police station in under an hour.
あったあった。よっと。
I stopped in the visitor parking lot, then grabbed Miyuki by the hand to help her out. And then, after giving my name to the person at the front desk, I started to ask where I could find Ooshi-san. But at that moment, I heard a strong, familiar voice calling out to me.
Oya? Oya, oya?
Ooshi, my boy! My man! My chum!
ひょっとして赤坂さんですか？何年ぶりでしょう。
大石さん、本当にご無沙汰しておりました。お変わりなく何よりです。
And that's not all. He's brought fresh meat. Ooshi-san celebrated our reunion by giving me a firm pat on the shoulder and squeezing his hand tight.
お変わりなくなんてひどいですな。最近リンゴダイエットっての始めましてね。ちょいと体重が絞れてきたつもりだったんですがね。そういう赤坂さんはこれはまた見違えるくらいにたくましくなったじゃないですか。
この程度には鍛えてないと体が持ちませんので。
頼もしい返事ですな。おや、そちらがひょっとして。
Ooshi-san suddenly looked at Miyuki, who was timidly standing next to me and looking down at her knees. I told you! Fresh meat! Upon seeing that, she hid behind my back, looking astonished.
こら、みゆき。ちゃんとご挨拶しなさい。
She squeezed at the hem of my shirt while gawking at Ooshi-san with a dubious expression. She's not normally this shy. What's going on? Well, he does have a certain aura about him, what him being the so-called enforcer of Orishira-sama and all that. Don't be, like, come on. Don't be too harsh on Miyuki now, Akasaka. Well, maybe harsh is not the right word here, but whatever.
すみません。いつもはこうじゃないんですが。
いいんですよ。おじさん顔が怖いからな。よかったらお名前を聞いてもいいですか？
赤坂みゆき。5歳です。こんにちはです。
Very formal.
いいお返事です。さすがは赤坂さんの娘さんですよ。な。
Ooshi-san gently stroked Miyuki's head and gave her a tender smile, treating her like a grandchild. At last, Miyuki started to look relieved and put on a smile.
どうしたんだ、みゆき。今日は随分おとなしいじゃないか。
だって、ママがこの前、知らない人には気をつけるようにって。
いや、全くその通りです。これ一本取られましたな。
Rather than being offended, when Ooshi-san heard that he seemed to find Ooshi-san heard that, he seemed to find it amusing, and his body shook as he laughed. Good grief. Miyuki must think her mother an absolutely terrifying thing.
パパ、喉乾いた。お水飲んできてもいい？
ご飯食べるときまで我慢しなさい、みゆき。もうすぐ連れて行ってあげるから。
なあ、それならおじさんがジュースおごってあげましょう。はい、100円。
こら、みゆき。
Miyuki accepted the 100 yen coin from Ooshi-san, then gleefully looked up at me while frolicking about. Her lovely round eyes were glimmering, and she had an absolutely adorable smile on her face. Where did I get absolutely from? Is it a sign of weakness that I can't get upset with her here? Yes it is. But I can forgive you for it.
すみません、大石さん。
いいんです。これぐらい気にしない。みゆきちゃん、ジュースの自動販売機はこの廊下の奥だから。一人で買いに行けるかな？
ありがとう、大石のおじちゃん。
Miyuki cheerfully bowed her head as she said that. Then a light pitter-patter rang out as she ran off.
いい子じゃないですか。きちんとお礼が言える。それだけでも大したものですよ。
いえ、すみません、大石さん。甘やかしすぎだと、この前も家内に叱られたばかりで。
仕方ありませんよ。男親はどうしても娘に対しては過保護になるって言いますからね。いや、それにしても残念です。もう少し前にお知らせをもらっていれば、一婚どころか盛大な歓迎会を開かせていただいたのですが。
すみません、今日は近くを通りかかっただけでして。でもまた近いうちに家内を連れてご挨拶に伺います。その時はぜひ一席設けさせてください。
いや、さすがに家族団らんのお邪魔まではいたしませんよ。 ああ、そういえばもうすぐ綿流しのお祭りがお隣のHinamizawaで開かれる予定なんです。
Oh, hey, Akasaka! Hinamizawa is about to have the Watanagashi Festival. You want me to tell you about some very suspicious happenings going on over there as of late? To pique your detective's nose a little bit?
もしよろしければ、ぜひご家族でお越しになってください。
Or it could just be something completely harmless. That's fine too.
屋台とかで賑わいますから、娘さんもきっと喜ばれると思いますよ。
あ、はい。ぜひ遊びに行かせてください。
Wait, I wonder if we'll actually see this play out in Omote when we go back to it.
お、
That moment. An old memory resurfaced in the back of my mind. That's right. Back when I visited Hinamizawa, I met a young girl. I'm certain her name was Rika Ferudi. I wonder how old she is now.
リカちゃん。
おや、赤坂さん、ひょっとして古出家のリカさんとお知り合いでしたか？だったらますますちょうどいい。彼女が綿流しの主役ですからね。見に行ってあげるときっと喜んでくれますよ。
ええ。彼女はお元気ですか？
元気も元気。毎日お友達と一緒に大騒ぎしていますよ。
よかった。
Hearing that took a load off my chest. I didn't think any misfortune had befallen her, but I was glad to hear that she was growing up in good health. If only you knew. Huh? Come to think of it, I'm sure she told me before.
ああ、そうだ。今日は実にタイミングがいい。あなたにぜひご紹介しておきたい子がいるんですよ。
Oh yeah, and who's that?
私にですか？
どこ行ったかな？
She?
まだ柿内には戻っていないはずなんだけど。
Oh, Tomoe?
あれ？
Oh, I see. She's at the vending machine with Miyuki right now. Hey, Tomoe! She can't reach. Tomoe, give her a hand! On the way back to the criminal affairs office after a meeting with the chief, Tomoe suddenly noticed a little girl stretching her hand out in front of the vending machine in the break room.
子供？誰のお子さんだろう？
It's Super Cop's child! The break room is for staff only, which means this couldn't be some civilian's child. She had to be here if a police officer. But she didn't recall seeing such an adorable little girl earlier in the morning. Apparently, the girl was trying to put a 100 yen coin into the coin slot to buy some juice. But sadly, this vending machine was designed for adults, so it was too small for a child to handle. Ooshi! You should have thought this through more! She was struggling with it, and even if she extended her hand all the way out, she'd still be 10 centimeters too short. Jump, Miyuki, jump!
どうしたのお嬢ちゃん。ジュース買いたいの？じゃあちょっと待ってね。よいしょっと。
Before the girl could turn around to look, Tomoe grabbed her by both sides and lifted her up. She suddenly turned her head back as her feet lifted off the ground, but Tomoe gave her a bright smile.
これで届くでしょ？ほら。
When she turned forward once again, the coin slot was right in front of her. As soon as she saw that, the girl slid the coin in the slot and pressed the orange juice button beside it. Then, the sound of a can rolling down came from the opening by her feet.
よかったね、お嬢ちゃん。
ありがとう、おばちゃん。
Oh, Miyuki. She's verbally smacking every adult under the belt today. Holy shit. Old lady. She said, old lady? Well, hey, look on the bright side. At least she recognized you as a lady. Unlike some delinquents. Given their current positions, she could easily suplex a girl, couldn't she? Tomoe, don't. You may be a one-woman army. But there are just some lines you should absolutely never cross. Under any circumstances. And this is one of them. Tome's rational side barely managed to suppress the impulse. Seriously, please, do not suplex the child! Right. From a child's point of view, a woman near 30 probably would be perceived as an old lady. Getting upset about it would be rather immature, right? Yes? She thought so, but maybe she wasn't quite that mature. Then grow up faster!
おばちゃん、なんで泣いてるの？どこか痛いの？
なんでもないのよ。
Tomei struggled to maintain a smile as she shed tears deep inside her heart. Anyway, she was glad there was nobody else in the room. With that thought in mind, she was just about to set the girl down. But that moment...
おー、ともえちゃん、そこにいましたか。探しましたよ。
The break room door swung open behind her, and two men stepped inside. One was Ooshi, the old detective who had been supporting her for many years. And the other was...
いやいや、ちょうどよかった。あなたにぜひご紹介したい人がいましてね。赤坂さん、こちらは警察庁の見内警部です。
警視庁管理官の赤坂です。どうかよろしくお願いします。
こちらこそ。私は警察庁広報室係長の見内と申します。お会いできて光栄です。
After receiving a salute from the man named Akasaka who bore the title of commissioner, Tomoe dexterously held the girl's body in one hand to salute him back. But surprisingly enough, the girl in her arms imitated that posture and formed a salute herself.
おやおや。
There's a funny mental image.
さすが元少年係の指導員さん。お子さんのあやし方が上手ですね。
これは。
申し訳ありません。娘がお世話になったようで。こらみゆき、ちゃんとお礼は言ったのか？
ちゃんと言ったもん。ね
確かに。可愛いお嬢さんですね。
Now don't lie, Miyuki. That was not all you said. If she hadn't called Tomoe an old lady, she would have been perfect. Tomoe quietly muttered that to herself, and slowly lowered Miyuki to the floor.
ともえちゃん、おっとっと。見内警部さんとは今ちょっと立て込んだ捜査を一緒にやっておりまして。赤坂さん、彼女は優秀な方なんですよ。特にプロファイリング分析に関しては日本でも有数の技術と知識をお持ちです。今は広報にお勤めですが、もともとは愛知県警の刑事さんをやっておられました。
オーバーですよ、大石さん。もう。
ほう。プロファイリング分析ですか。外国の論文で何度かその操作技法について拝見したことがあります。いやいや、あれに目をつけるとはすごい方だ。どうか今後ともお見知りおきください。
そんな、 私はただの若輩者ですから。赤坂さん、失礼ですが。
え？ああ、自己紹介が不十分でしたね。私は警視庁の公安部に勤めております。大石さんには以前の捜査で大変お世話になりまして。
なるほど。
Tomoe reached a conclusion while listening to Akasaka's reply. Detectives from public security are usually hesitant to share their titles. It was the same for officers from other police departments. By speaking of it here, it meant that Ooshi already knew his identity. And the investigation that they had collaborated on was probably related to public security. Yes, she was confident that was the case.
こちらこそ失礼しました。私の父も公安でしたので、ご事情は理解しております。どうかご信頼ください。
助かります。
And Akasaka could tell just how sharp she was from her response. As to be expected, Ooshi introduced him to a particularly exceptional police officer.
そういえば赤坂さん、近くを通りがかったとおっしゃっていましたが、どちらへお出かけの予定ですか？
和倉温泉に行く途中に立ち寄らせていただきました。今度家族で温泉旅行に行くことになりまして。
ほう、そりゃ豪勢ですね。あそこの温泉地はなかなかの景観だ。きっと奥さんもお嬢ちゃんも喜んでくれると思いますよ。よかったね、みゆきちゃん。
Miyuki nodded to Ooshi with a broad smile on her face, while holding her orange juice in both hands and taking a sip. There was no longer any caution in her behavior. The atmosphere was like a grandfather interacting with a granddaughter.
それにしても、よくもまあ家族旅行なんてお出かけになる休みが取れましたね。以前の電話をした時は、随分お忙しいと聞いておりましたが。
それは。
ああ、すみませんね。つい立ち入ったことを聞いてしまいまして。
いえ、お気になさらないでください。実は、情けない話なんですが、関わっていたとある事件の捜査本部が、先日、上司の命令で解散になってしまって、そのリフレッシュも兼ねて、休めとお達しがありまして。
ほう、それはそれは。
Thinking it would be rude to respond to a joke, Ooshi went over to the vending machine and bought a coffee, then offered it to Akasaka. Akasaka gave him his thanks as he accepted it, then pulled back the tab and took a drink, while carefully choosing the right words to explain the situation.
なるほど。それは大変でしたね。
残念ですよ。有力な証拠も掴んで、攻め入れば十分に勝機があったんです。地検に勤める先輩がずっと追っていた相手でもありましたし、私としてはぜひとも捕まえたかったんですがね。
まあ、赤坂さんでも無理だったのなら、他の誰にもできませんでしたよ。
If he couldn't do it, I can. I'm a one-man army, baby. I will win.
元気出してください。
Ooshi gave Akasaka a pat on the shoulder as he said that, to encourage him. Because of the nature of the investigation, detectives can't explain the scientific details of their cases to one another. Even so, it was plain to see how disappointed Akasaka felt about being forced to abandon the investigation partway through. And it was easy to infer that the orders came from a well-known and powerful figure. And knowing that, Ooshi couldn't help but sympathize. Tomoe didn't want to interrupt the two of them, so she kept quiet and pretended not to listen. She looked away and focused on the clock on the wall. She had an appointment with the 1st Division Section Chief at Prefectural Police HQ shortly after noon. Considering the potential for traffic, she needed to leave soon if she didn't want to be late.
大石さん、申し訳ありませんが、私はそろそろ失礼させていただきます。
おや、もうお戻りになる時間ですか。真面目だな。もう少しゆっくりしていってもいいでしょうに。
いえ、県警本部で課長さんたちを待たせてしまっては失礼ですから。赤坂管理官、またお会いできる時を楽しみにしております。
ええ、こちらこそ。みないさん、今後お仕事をご一緒できる時がありましたら、ぜひ。
ありがとうございます。では。おばさんじゃ
Bang. Tomoe tried to leave the room, but she was caught off guard by Miyuki's careless words and hit her head against the door as it began to open. Oof. Ooshi burst into laughter at the shameful sight, and she fled the scene with teary eyes. Oh, poor Tomoe. Stick a couple dozen burgers down her mouth, she'll be fine.
どうです？彼女。いい子でしょ。
ええ、本当に。女性警官でもああいう感じの人は素直に好感が持てます。どういう接点でお知り合いになられたんですか？
まあいろいろありましてね。彼女は昔辛い目にもあっていまして、なんとなくそれ以来目が離せなくなっちゃったんですよ。
辛い目。それはどういう？
It's a long story, like you said.
南井警部のお父さんは南井祐介警部補公安の刑事さんでした。12年前、公安刑事夫妻の自宅で起きた火災事故、ご存知ありませんか？そこでご両親が何者かに殺されたんですよ。
The sky was perfectly clear and blue. A brilliant light was shining down on the classroom from there.
いい天気だな。いい天気だけど。
Wow, hello, Chisato. The seasonal wardrobe change had already come and gone, and the climate was now switching from warm to hot. And today in particular was especially cloud-free. The clear blue sky certainly was beautiful, but for students who were trapped indoors in class, it had no value beyond that.
夏も暑くなけりゃ過ごしやすい季節なんだけどね。そりゃ夏じゃないでしょ。
And hello to you, Tamako. Tamako was on classroom duty today, holding a vase full of water in both hands, and setting it on a small desk near the locker. Then she opened the window in an effort to cool down, but in came a fresh, warm breeze. Even though it was still only morning, the chorus of the cicadas in the schoolyard was particularly loud. They say their lives only last a few weeks. That's short, huh? That's why it's appropriate for them to spend their short time on Earth living to the fullest. But, well, considering the sheer volume of the sound, it would be preferable if they considered the time and place for making that racket. You just said it! They have to live their short lives to the fullest, so screw considerations and politeness. That's unreasonable. Probably impossible.
ああ、暑いね。そうだね。って、ちょっと千里、 あんた女の子なんだから、スカートパタパタさせるのはやめなさい。
いいじゃん。私のなんて誰も見たいと思わないでしょ。
まあ、そうだけどね。
Oof. More words being shot below the belt.
おい、そこはフォローしろっての。
はいはい。
Tamako shrugged her shoulders and let out an exasperated sigh, then went back to her desk and used the fan to cool off. Apparently, she too lacked the energy to deal with today's heat. It's troubling when she's too scathing, but it's also bothersome to be ignored.
おいチサ
And hello to you, Akira.
いるか
Just then, a voice called out to me from outside the classroom. When I lightly turned my head, I found Akira standing by the entrance.
アキラちゃん、おはよう。
おはよ
Akira was walking over to us, and for a moment she had a blank look on his face. He had a blank look on his face that seemed like he wanted to say, "Oh?" But he noticed my broad grin and immediately swung back to his usual sullen look as he said, "Good morning, Chisa."
Good morning, Akira.
There was a morning, but I didn't see a good right before it.
朝っぱらから何か用かい？
う。なんか用じゃねえよ。この前貸した俺の英和辞典、まだ返してもらってないぞ。一元のリーダーで使うんだから、とっとと返せ。
おっと、じいちゃんすっかり忘れてたよ。ちょっと待ってて。
Squatting down to look inside my desk was too bothersome, so I felt my way around inside trying to identify the contents. The number of textbooks abandoned in there is slowly growing. It's such a pain, but maybe I'll take them home today.
こら、千里。こういう場合は借りた方が返しに行くのが礼儀でしょ。
いいじゃん。私とアキラの間柄なんだからさ。ほい、これ。
誤解を招くような言い方するな。たく。ってこれ、俺のじゃないぞ。
あら、ほんと。
When I looked at the dictionary in Akira's hands, I realized my mistake. The cover was ragged and the pages were all worn out. Probably a hand-me-down from an older student. And the publisher is different from the one our school uses. Which means this dictionary must belong to her.
えらく使い込んでる感じだな。お前のなわけないか。
Where is Natsumi?
失礼だね。その通りだけど。それは夏美の辞書だよ。アキラのはこれだ。おい、受け取りやがれ。
受け取れって。あんた、なんで同じ英和辞典を2つも借りてるのよ。
いやー、アキラの辞書よりも夏美の方が付箋とかマーカーがあって使いやすかったからね。中間試験前の復習ここでやった時に強引に借りちゃったんだ。
ちさ、もうお前には辞書貸さね
え。After that rough rejection, he snatched the dictionary from my hands. But you could say he's an easy-to-understand guy. Akira stared at Natsumi's dictionary in the other hand for a few seconds, and then handed it over with a regretful look on his face. I feel like I'm gonna sneeze. Excuse me.
じゃあその辞書、先週から借りっぱなしなの？
そうだけど。
Chisato! You took away all of Natsumi's words! For a whole week! You left her speechless!
家にも古い辞書があるから大丈夫って言ってくれたし。
You shouldn't have believed her! Those dictionaries contain all the words. All of them. If she doesn't have that, how will she ever find her words?
え。
All of them. If she doesn't have that, how will she ever find her words?
そういう問題じゃないでしょ。いくら中間試験が終わった後でも夏美にはノートとかも借りてるじゃない。あんまり甘えが過ぎるとあの子困っちゃうわよ。
Yeah, she's actually right. As other arcs go to great lengths to show.
だって夏美の英語のノートって先生の補足話とかも書き込んでてすっごく細かいしさ。あ、でも数学はあの子にヘルプしてあげてるんだからプラモイゼロでしょ。
そういう問題じゃないでしょ。まったく。
Tamako was stunned as she said that, but it's true that all people have their strengths and weaknesses. It's much more efficient for each person to use their own expertise to help others on the subjects they have weaker understanding in. Excuse. Plus, Natsumi's notes were definitely a bit harder to read than an honor roll student like Tamako's. But she double-checked the parts she didn't understand and asked the teacher questions when necessary. So for me, it was much more helpful and detailed than a regular old reference book, and it was a big help for the test a few days ago. Well, back when I told her I was borrowing it, I'm sure she did say it was unreasonable. Even if you subtract the things I offered her in exchange, I really left her on the ice. I felt sorry about that. Next time I go shopping near the station, maybe I'll look for something cute to give her as a thank you gift. Yeah, that sounds good.
ああ、そういえば。
夏美はまだだよ。
まだ何も聞いてないだろ。
You're easy to read. Akira's face turned bright red after receiving an answer before even asking his question. On the other hand, judging by his restless demeanor, it was totally obvious that was what he was about to ask.
はいはい、言わなくても分かってるっつーの。あんた教室入るときにあっちこっち目向けてあの子がいないか探しながら来てたくせにバレバレだよ。
そんなことはねえよ。ただなんでもない。
I guess he couldn't come up with a good excuse, because he just shut his mouth and kept quiet. Oh no, looks like I took my teasing too far. If I badger him anymore, he'll just suddenly turn tail and head back to class. Even if Natsumi is running late, she should be here soon. Well, I guess that answers that question, as to where she is. I'm sure she'd want to talk to Akira face to face, so I need to keep him here a little longer.
ちょっと遅れるって言ってたけど多分もうすぐ来るよ。予令もまだみたいだしここで待っていれば。
だから俺は。
夏美ね、登校前に病院寄ってくるんだって。
Ah, to get her pills, I assume?
千里のところの佐伯総合病院だからそんなに時間かからないと思うけど。
病院ってどこか悪いのか。
Tamako gave me a look and shrugged her shoulders to say, "This is it." Geez. Even though I'm pretending not to notice, I'm still getting snared in these traps, so maybe I should just tell the truth. Well, I guess she is something special to Akira.
ああ、違う違う。病院だって言ってもおばあちゃんの定期検査の付き添いだってさ。一人で行ったら迷うかもしれないから途中まで送っていくってね。
なんだ、そうなのか。
よかったね、アキラくんや。あんたの夏美ちゃんに何事もなくて。
関係ないって言っただろ。
As far as you guys know.
まあまあ。でも夏美ってそういうところ本当に優しいよね。アキラちゃんもそう思わない？
まあ。
Tamako cut in, trying to soothe the situation, and Akira scratched the tip of his nose as he nodded back at her. Even since old times, he always used that habit to hide his embarrassment. Maybe I should tell him
No, you shouldn't. That's your secret weapon.
この前も 横断歩道を渡ろうとしていた見ず知らずのおじいさんの手を引いてあげたりして、結構気がつくのよね。将来は介護士を目指すって言ってたけど、まさに転職かも。アルバイト先の介護センターでも評判いいんでしょ？
主任の山瀬さんもよく働いて気の回る子だって褒めていたからね。いやー、紹介した私も鼻が高いわ。
お前が威張るな。
何を言う。私はあの子の保護者だよ。ということは私の手取り足取りの教育の賜物だと誇って当然じゃない。
むしろ反面教師だろ。
Yeah, I laughed it off as a joke, but that girl really is such a hard worker. Honestly, I think she's amazing. I heard that she had a really hard time keeping up with classes when she first transferred to this school, since she was coming from the countryside. But she studied late every single day and constantly prepared herself for class, until she was finally able to catch up to us. She listened intently in class, took lots of notes, and asked the teacher plenty of questions when she didn't understand something. There's not a teacher in the world who'd be disappointed by her earnest, hard-working attitude. That's why even our loathsome teacher, Ogata, who values test scores above all else, is particularly fond of Natsumi. And I found it hard to believe that sort of behavior didn't draw any criticism from her classmates. In fact, they're overwhelmingly in her favor. Well, she's lucky. Normally asking too many questions makes you the Poindexter of the classroom. While it's certainly true that she's not the most talented person around, she more than makes up for it through sheer effort. That was my precious friend.
Kimiyoshi さんに嫉妬したりしない？
Classmates once asked me mean-spirited questions like that. I let out a nasal laugh. Sorry, but we're not in a one-sided relationship. We talk things over with one another, and sometimes we end into fights, but we make up shortly afterwards. We understand that there aren't just fun and happy times, but also sad and painful times, and we seek out ways to support one another. We've climbed walls together and scaled mountains that other people couldn't comprehend. She's one of my best friends. So I'm proud to call her a friend, and I can't say I have any dark feelings. I believe from the bottom of my heart that I have the same sort of bond of Natsumi as I have with my childhood friends, Tamako and Akira. Right. My role now is to help her find happiness. So, I'll do anything for Natsumi.
Chisato?
なんだい、タマコ。
どうかしたの？急に黙り込んじゃって。
Well, you know how it is when you're thinking about friendship and all that.
いや、別に。お。
Just then, the classroom door rattled open as it slid open. Natsumi? Then I heard a cute, breathless voice as someone rushed inside.
おはよう。
噂をすればなんとやら。だ、おはよう、夏。
Oh my. You know, I briefly saw it in that opening cinematic earlier, but she has her hair down. Looks good on her, not gonna lie. That moment, history had moved forward. No, it came to a halt. Brace yourself, Natsumi. Well, maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, but all of us froze on the spot, completely at a loss for words.
おはよう、千里ちゃん、たまこちゃん。東堂くんもおはよう。
Tamako and Akira were too dumbfounded to answer, with their eyes open wide. And I'm sure I was making the same exact face. And it wasn't just us, but all the students in the entire classroom. They all stopped chatting and stood stunned, fixated on her.
みんな、どうしたのかな
That adorable voice. It had a comforting sound to it. And her face radiated a friendly atmosphere. No doubt about it. This is my best friend. Wait. What? What?
やっぱり、この髪、変。
Right before my eyes, this beautiful girl turned her gaze downward, scared to look at us in our current state. And seeing her look like a small animal, I felt something in my heart tear open and spoke up.
Natsumi! 結婚してください!
I ignored Natsumi's screaming and jumped over to hug her petite little body.
なんだこの可愛らしいものはこの世のもの？人の生み出した文化の極み！いや違う！まさに妖精、天使の造形！幻想世界の産物だ！
千里ちゃん。
言葉ってなんて不便！これを見て可愛い、美しい、麗しいという以外の表現が全然見当たらないなんて！この美を表現するには日本語じゃ足りん！英語、フランス語、ドイツ語、ロシア語、カムチャッカ語、すべての対象単語を並べ立ててもその半分も言い尽くせない！ねえ！それでも一言で言えって言うのなら私が世界の中心に立って言ってやる！そう！愛している！と！
何を言って？
そうだ、そうなのだよ。私は今やっと気がついた。私がこれまでずっと探し求めてきたもの。それは富？それとも名声？いや、そんなくだらないもののために私はこの世知辛い世の中を生きてきたんじゃない。私が欲しかったのはそう、ただ一つの愛。それがユウだ！君吉夏美！
Hey, I ship it.
ちょっと千里！
うるさい！寄るな、触るな、近寄るな！私は決心したぞ。こんな可愛いもの誰にもやらん！
Well, you better pray that you never meet Reina Ryugu then. Because when she wants to take something home with her, I've yet to come across any force on Earth that could stop her.
まあ、たとえ日本の国家予算を全部渡すと言われてもノーセンキューでお断りだ！今日ここで私は宣言する！私は女をやめるぞ！
おい、チサ！
でい、そこをどけ、アキラ！この子はもう私の嫁だ！さあ、行くぞ、夏美！同性婚が認められているオランダへ！このバカタレ！なんだこれ！
I received a heavy blow to the back of the head. In the moment I instinctively relaxed my grip from the pain, Tamako pulled Natsumi into her chest.
痛いな。何するのさ、タマコ。
それはこっちのセリフだ。何公衆の面前でとんでもないこと口走ってるのよ。
She's getting ready to sail the ship. The ship where she and Natsumi are the captains.
とんでもないことあるか。私はただ欲求と願望に忠実に行動しただけだ。それのどこが悪い？
爪の先から頭のてっぺんまで極悪よ。
And then Tamako turned toward Natsumi, who she was tightly embracing in the force of that maneuver. Hey, Tamako? Why is your face suddenly turning red? Is it just my imagination, or is there something different about the way she's looking at Natsumi?
たまこちゃん。
ごめんね、夏美。いきなりのイメチェンだったから、私、びっくりしすぎちゃって。
What? What? She's catching your eye in similar fashion too, Tamako?
変じゃないかな。
全然変どころか、すっごく可愛い。どこかのお嬢様かと思っちゃったよ。
一言付け加えるなら、私もれっきとしたお嬢様です。
Respectable, I find debatable, but I do agree with everything else.
はい、パチモンお嬢様。イメージ壊れるから少し黙ってて。
どういこら、タマコ！つうか、その手を離せ！
素敵、かわいい。もう、うちにテイクアウトしたいわ。
Oh dear God, speak of the devil. Apparently Reina's possessing Tamako right as we speak.
いいわよね、夏美。反論は聞かないわよ。
Now, if I could just be the mediator here between all of you, especially because Akira is still in the room last I checked, why don't we just settle for an option that will please everybody? Let's have a foursome. Tamako completely ignored me as she said that, and let out a mew sound while embracing Natsumi. Hold up, Tamako. That's my role. You're supposed to be situation control. Don't switch our roles around without even asking first. She doesn't need your permission. Well, Akira, are you just gonna stand there looking like an envelope without an address on it, or are you going to get in on this?
東堂君。
何？
Meanwhile, Akira was left all on his own in this hustle, standing there in shock until Natsumi finally called out to him and brought him back to his senses. That moment, his face turned boiling red, and he turned away to dodge Natsumi's gaze.
この髪型、変かな。
Unironically, it does look good on you.
いや、俺は、
Right. That one is completely useless in situations like this, isn't he? Even though it would be more than enough to just say it's nice. Jeez, he's hopeless. And you are scandalous.
おいおい、アキラ。ひょっとして気に入らないってのか？がっかりだね、夏美。アキラは美術で綺麗どころを見すぎて、美人ってどんなものかを忘れちゃったみたいだよ。なあ、アキラほどにもなると美しいって感じる水準が高くなるのも仕方ないけどね。
Oh, what? You saying you've got low standards, Chisato?
そんなことあるか？綺麗だよ。
Are you actually? Now that I think about it, Chisato, are you insinuating that Natsumi is low quality? Akira suddenly responded to my provocation, and when Natsumi heard that, her eyes popped open wide as her face flushed over. And when he noticed that reaction, he went, "Ah!" But it was too late. to take back the words he inadvertently let slip.
東堂くん。
その髪型、本当に綺麗すぎて、なんて言っていいか。だから、
ありがとう。
Akira was faltering, trying his hardest to set aside his bashfulness and say something. But as soon as he received his reward of a smile at point-blank range, his face turned red and he fell silent. Well, I guess for a blockhead like him, that really was him doing his best. In fact, he was speaking well up until the end there. Yeah.
君吉さん？その髪、とっても綺麗。ちょっとだけ触ってもいい？
いいけど。
サラサラ！モデルさんみたい！
ねえ、普段どんなシャンプー使ってるの？どうやったらこんなに綺麗になるの？
それは。
Other girls circled around Natsumi to shower her with praise and ask questions. Some of them weren't normally very close to her, but her hair today was so beautiful that they wanted to give her their attention. Long, beautiful hair is an age-old desire for girls. And even more so for the boys.
ねえ、アキラ。こいつはやばいよ。
は？何がだよ。
周り、見てみなよ。軽く言っちゃってる。
Akira abruptly checked his surroundings, and his eyes opened wide. Right on the edge of his line of sight, the ace of the volleyball team, Maida, was gazing back this way with his mouth open wide. Well, Akira? You just gonna stand and let this slide? What you gonna do, my boy? And Yokoyama, the potential leader of the brass brand, was constantly eyeing up Natsumi while chatting with her. Both of them were rather handsome, and quite popular with the girls to boot. Plus, the student council officer, Mimura, was just gawking at one point, with his cheeks flushed red. Oh man, even the student council's getting in on this! Akira! Do something! And the rest of the masses were... well, I needn't say more.
おい！
あらあら。こいつは争奪戦が近々勃発しそうな勢いだね。
More like a free-for-all.
争奪戦？
そりゃそうだよ。女子がこれだけ騒ぐくらいなんだから、男子なら黙って見てるはずがないじゃないの。
In just a few days, no, maybe even by tomorrow morning, there'll be a huge crowd around the girls' lockers. Some ass might even ask me or Tamako to deliver a message on their behalf. Well, there's no way I'd do anything for a guy that lazy though.
それより、大丈夫かい、アキラ。あんた、このまま黙って見ててもいいの？
どういう意味だよ。
そういう意味だよ。夏美って結構推しが弱いからね。ちょっとかっこいいやつから告白されたらコロッと OK しちゃうかもしれないな。しかもこれで注目度が一気に上昇でしょ。もともと隠れファンが結構いたんだけど、いきなり株価急騰って感じだね。
そうなのか？
Oh, now he's getting impatient. Akira could no longer afford to hide his shock. He turned his head to look at the moment I cajoled him.
おや？ひょっとしてアキラ、夏美が安全株だと思って余裕ぶっかましてたとか？
そんなことない。いや、そもそも俺は
素直になりなよ、アキラ。動くなら今しかないって。これだけは間違いない。
Akira intently and obediently listened to my rude declaration, like he had a growing sense of crisis. But looking at the situation right now, it may be inevitable. Just then, the bell rang out to put an end to the commotion. It was almost time for first period.
はいはい、アキラ。もうすぐ授業開始だよ。とっとと自分の教室に戻りんさい。しゃあないな。昼休みにいい策授けてやるから、またその時においで。
は
After quietly whispering that in Akira's ear while he anxiously stared at Natsumi, I shoved him out of the classroom with my shoulder. Jeez, this couple always needs so much babysitting.
千里？
ん？何かね、タモさんや。
なんでもない。
After saying that, Tamako went over and calmed the noisy girls down, then returned to her desk. I watched her back as she went, then shrugged my shoulders and returned to my seat. Don't worry, Tamako. This is my choice. My decision. Yep. This is indeed an art room. Akira let out a deep sigh while gazing at the white canvas on the easel. He didn't know how many times he sighed since coming into the art room.
参ったな。
He was planning to start painting summer-themed pictures today, but he just couldn't think of a good motif for the picture. Or rather, there was no way anything could come to mind. Akira's mind was filled with thoughts completely unrelated to painting. But he was on the verge of making a big decision.
なんであんなこと頼んじまったんだろ
He clung to his head, suffering from regret and self-loathing. A deadly combination, to be sure. Seriously, there was so much momentum to this scene. During lunch break, Chisato and Tamako took Akira out to the roof, where they told him to confess right away, in a nearly threatening tone, and offered their cooperation in the most pushy way possible.
告白ちょっと待って、俺そんなつもりは。
すごかったよ、休み時間。授業終わると何人かの男子、わからないところがあるとかなんとか言って接点持とうと夏美に話しかけてきたりしてさ。今までこんなこと全然なかったのに。
そうなのか？
Akira imagined the scene in his head, without even questioning if Chisato's story was true. A classmate openly starting a light conversation, and Natsumi responding with a smile. It was an opportunity that someone from another class, like him, would never have. Although, Chisato and Tamako both recognized that Akira probably wouldn't be able to do that even if they were in the same class.
まあ、正直夏美は戸惑った感じで応対してたけどね。今後も続いたら、あの嫌って言えない性格を勘違いするバカも出てくるかもしれないな。
勘違い？
自分に好意があるんじゃないかってね。アキラちゃん、このままだと先を越されちゃうよ。
それは。
大丈夫。自信を持ちなって。夏美は間違いなくあんたに好意を持ってるからさ。今のところはね。
Akira quietly lamented how Chisato's support was always followed up with a gut punch. More like a below-the-belt punch. Seems to be the running theme for today's episode. If she would just leave out those last few words, she'd be a pretty great person.
だから俺は。
あのさ、私たちだってどうでもいいやつにこんなこと焚きつけたりはしないって。幼馴染のよしみで最大限気を回してやってるの。言っとくけど、これマジだよ。
それにアキラちゃん、ずっと前から夏美のこと好きなんでしょ？正直になっちゃいなよ。後から来た誰かにあの子かっさらわれてもいいの？
俺は。はあ。
This does not look like the same room that we were just in. He suddenly looked up at the ceiling. Without even closing his eyes, a vision of Natsumi's embarrassed smile from earlier this morning came to mind.
可愛かったよな。本当に。
Rather than simply falling in love, it'd be right to say he was moved by just how lovely she was. Right, he admitted it. When asked whether or not he liked her, he definitely did. But it wasn't just some casual thought because she was cute. And it wasn't just because she got along so well with Chisato and Tamako. It was more than that. Akira was attracted to Natsumi for stronger, deeper reasons. He was drawing an ordinary landscape painting depicting the scene outside the school window. He wasn't planning to submit this illustration anywhere. At first, it was nothing more than a distraction, but he really took a liking to it as he worked his brush and became fully immersed in it, creating a work for his own sake in the truest sense. Akira himself thought it was the ultimate in self-indulgence and a bit of self-torture. So, after he finished the painting, he tried to hang it on the wall in the corner of the art room, but then he felt like nobody would take a liking to it, so he sat down to gather dust. But, that moment...
こんなに素敵な絵、初めて見た。
え？
It was a transfer student, who Chisato was escorting to the art room for the first time. Natsumi Kimiyoshi. She looked up and pointed at the picture, while saying, Akira drew that, then suddenly let out a sigh.
すごいな。こんなすごい絵を私と同じ年の人が描けるなんて。これってここの窓から見た外の景色を描いた絵だよね。
ああ、うん。
うまく言えないけど、空の青さと遠くの夕焼けの赤との対比がとても綺麗。実際に目で見るよりもずっとあったかくて優しくて幸せな感じ。
まあ、
Just as he began to speak up, a line of tears streaked down Natsumi's face as she gazed forward. Akira was timidly listening to her impressions, but he was surprised when he noticed that reaction.
よくわかんないけど。ごめん。
違うの。私、絵を見てこんなにジーンとしちゃったの、初めてだったから。
え？
Akira lost his voice as soon as he heard Natsumi say that. He had been praised countless times before. People told him his work was beautiful. But for someone to be moved to tears... Never before had someone looked at one of his pictures and taken it so deeply to heart.
私、美術ってよくわからないし、絵も全然下手だから偉そうなこと言えないけど、本当にこの絵、とっても素敵だと思う。だって、こんなに綺麗で優しい夕焼けの空、今までに見たことないから。
He was delighted. He was thrilled that a girl he was slightly acquainted with, who was roughly the same age as him, was willing to go so far to praise one of his paintings. He had plenty of friends and acquaintances who were proud of him for winning prizes. But Natsumi was the first one to show such a simple and sincere reaction to seeing one of his paintings.
私、柿内に来てよかったな。
え？
だって、こんなに絵 を描く人からも素敵に見える街なら、きっと、住んでいる人も素敵なんだろうなって予感を信じられるから。予感なんかじゃない。だって、引っ越して間もない私なのに、こんなにも素敵な友達がすぐにできたのが、その証拠だもん。私、引っ越してきた時からこの街が好きになった。でもきっと、これからはもっともっと好きになれると思う。変な言い方だけど、この絵を見ていると、そう信じる勇気が湧いてくるような。
ありがとう。そんなに気に入ってもらえると、描いてよかったと思えるよ。
And Natsumi said it was good, to the point that the sunset sky moved her to tears. Up until that point, Akira was actually feeling bothered, worried, deeply troubled, and completely obsessed. Chisato and Tamako were there too, and even they were surprised to see him become so talkative and go into an impassioned speech.
この色、出すのに苦労したんだ。不気味な赤じゃない。もっと鮮やかで、命の息吹っていうか、希望を見出すような感じにしたくて。それで。
そうなんだ。
君吉さん。また新しいのを描いたら、見てもらってもいいかな。
That was the precise moment when Akira became completely fascinated by the girl named Natsumi Kimiyoshi. He realized that now. And, even nearly a year later, his hard feelings hadn't faded at all. In fact, they'd grown even stronger. There were other nice girls. Cute girls weren't all that uncommon either. But she was a particularly special girl.
いい子だよ、夏美は。
Even though Chisato was always playful and full of smiles, when Akira asked her what kind of girl Natsumi was, she gave him a completely serious and straightforward answer. At first, he didn't understand the meaning of that simple assessment. But now, he knew. She really was a good girl. She cared deeply for others and tried her hardest to understand them. She was a girl you could easily talk to anytime, anywhere. It must have been her kind personality that made her feel that way.
東堂くん？
Just then, a voice called out from the entrance of the art room, so Akira stood straight and looked back. Natsumi cautiously stepped inside, likely here because Chisato and the others told her to come.
ごめん、呼び出して。ここすぐ分かった。
もう何回も来てるから。
そうだな。ごめん。
Seeing the bitter smile on her face, he immediately felt regret and apologized to her. His sense of time seemed skewed, since he was thinking about that time they met so long ago. Even so, Akira steadied his breathing and encouraged himself, then turned toward Natsumi.
東堂くん？
君吉。
Natsumi quizzically tilted her head to the side while gazing up at Akira. Oh, are you gonna do it? Are you gonna confess? He always thought she was cute. But with her hair flowing like this, combined with that expression on her face, she looked several times more charming than usual. So Akira's mind went completely blank, and he froze up.
なんだ。だから、
Despite being irritated by his lack of confidence, Akira tried to inspire himself by searching the corners of his mind for the right words. He had to say it. he had to tell her something. Even if he couldn't think of a good response, it'd be far too sad to let it end without saying anything. Yes, he didn't need anyone to tell him that. He completely understood that. Come on, you can do it! Still, as the choking air continued flowing between them, his reckless valor slowly diminished. What should he do? Should he say something? In the end, would it be better to say nothing? If she refused his confession right there, would he never be able to talk to her again? Up until now, he always had a reserved space for her gentle smile and cozy demeanor. The fear of losing that all at once was digging deeper into his heart, and his voice wouldn't come out at all, like his throat was completely clogged. But he had to say it. He had to say at least something. Either way, Natsumi was waiting for Akira to say something. What's more, her face gradually shifted away from her earlier dubious expression and started turning red, with her mouth tightly closed and a meek look on her face. Perhaps she was thinking about what Akira was about to say. But if he tried to dodge the subject or run away here, surely she'd be either shocked or appalled. That's why you gotta go through with it!
Kimiyoshi! 俺は、君吉のことが、もっと知りたい。
And so, he spoke up. Akira finally squeezed out the courage to say something.
東堂くん？
知りたいんだ。君吉の好きな本とか、好きな映画とか、どんなやつが好きで、俺みたいなやつは、どうなのか、とか。俺のことを、例えば好きになってくれるのか、それが知りたくて。俺、君吉のことが、好きだ。
After fighting so hard to squeeze those words out, Akira took a deep breath. He finally said it. At last, he told her. And Natsumi. After listening to Akira's words, she fell silent and gazed down at the floor. What was she thinking about? What was she going to say? I'm sorry. I was so surprised. Thank you? No, that'd be far too pretentious. But it might be discourteous to expect an immediate answer to a sudden confession. Thinking that, he started to call out to Natsumi again to say, "You can answer whenever you're ready." But just then, something came from her eyes, hidden behind her bangs, and fell to the floor.
Go ごめん、君吉。俺、
東堂くん。
And then, he started feeling regret, wondering if something he said could have hurt her feelings. Akira was so upset he was about to cry, but Natsumi gently grabbed his hand, and then spoke up in a faint voice.
私でいいの？私でいいのかな？東堂くん。
君吉。
夢じゃないよね。本当に東堂くんが私に言ってくれてるんだよね。
As she said that, Tears were gushing from both Natsumi's eyes, and she had a joyous smile on her face from the bottom of her heart.
君吉、
私も好き。東堂くんのことが大好きです。
Huh? Really? This isn't a dream? She's not lying or joking around? No, he realized she wasn't the sort of person to do that. Then...
それじゃあ。
Attaboy! You done it! While still crying and smiling, Natsumi nodded to him. In that moment, his dark thoughts and heavy emotions vanished all at once, and they were replaced with, first of all, bewilderment, but also enough sheer joy to overpower that.
付き合ってくれますか？私と。
もちろん俺、絶対大切にする。君吉のこと、誰よりも。あ
りがとう。
Tears came spilling from Natsumi's eyes once again. As he handed her a handkerchief, Akira vowed to himself that he would remember Natsumi's smile right now for the rest of his life.